Listen, let's start with the running backs, though, because this is the group that was an absolute carousel of guys changing teams. The notable ones at the top there are Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. They get the big money deals with the Eagles and the Packers. Joe Mixon traded to the Texans from the Bengals. Derrick Henry ends up signing with the Ravens. Aaron Jones stays in the division after being cut by the Packers. He goes to the Vikings. Tony Pollard ends up signing with the Titans. DeAndre Swift, in first hour signing with the Chicago Bears. Austin Eckler goes to your Commanders, Matthew.
Yeah.
A lot of action with this group, and it didn't stop there. Zach Moss, who's coming off a really good season for the Colts when Jonathan Taylor went down, he ends up taking over in the Bengals backfield with Chase Brown. Devin Singletary ends up replacing Saquon, going to the Giants. Antonio Gibson leaves the Commanders for the Patriots. And the Gus Bus, with Jim Harbaugh and his downhill running scheme in play, ends up with the Chargers.
We'll talk about it in a little bit, but that is a sneaky, for fantasy purposes, that is a under-the-radar, very sneaky signing right there. Gus Edwards is going to be a value this year.
Yep.
I'm mark my words right now.
What do you think is the biggest signing of all these running backs? What do you think has the most repercussions on the fantasy season? Do you think it's Saquon behind that offensive line?
No, I mean, Saquon, biggest repercussions on the fantasy season might be.
Is it Derrick Henry
I think
behind
it's
that
Derrick
offensive
Henry.
line?
Yeah.
I think it's either Derrick Henry, it might be Josh Jacobs, because it's like Saquon's the biggest name, and he's going to obviously a premier team in the Eagles, but he's still Saquon. Like Saquon was being drafted in the first round of,
Sure.
it was going to be a top 10 running back regardless of where he winds up, right? So I don't know that it moves his market. Maybe you bump him up a spot or two, but you know what I mean? But Jacobs going from the Raiders to the Packers, where he's got no competition and it's just a better offense that's going to be in scoring position more, I think is pretty interesting.
Yep.
I think that's the key. Saquon last year, points per game was 9th. Jacobs last year was 18th because he didn't have an offseason, clearly was not ready to go out of the gate. So in terms of how it affects the rankings and coming into the year, feels like Jacobs moves the needle the most.
Yeah, I was just thinking yesterday in my free time, so I often think about who are the top 5 running backs in fantasy going into the season. I think McCaffrey is still number 1 with the ball. I don't think that's particularly close. But then there's a lot of guys in contention for number 2. Like you could say Kyron Williams, Breece Hall, you could say Bijan Robinson as well, new coaching staff and the more spaced floor, so to speak, with Kirk playing quarterback.
True.
I mean, you could make kind of niche arguments for Saquon is Derrick Henry. If he gets usage, he could be that type of guy. He's probably not with the receiving and the fact that Keaton Mitchell will still be there, but Josh Jacobs as well. Josh Jacobs won the rushing title 2 years ago.
Yes,
we kind of forget. And now he's got a much better offensive line than he's had in Vegas. So, yeah, it is all of a sudden a pretty loaded class. I wouldn't be surprised ultimately, though, if the number 2 guy is actually Breece Hall because they fixed their offensive line a little bit.
That's the key. The 2 guys you brought up that aren't on this list because they stay with their teams, Kyron Williams, the Rams kept Kevin Dotson. They're going to move Steve Avila, their standout rookie, to center because they also signed Jonah Jackson. That is an expensive, talented interior offensive line. So the Rams, for as good as they were last year, got better. And for the Jets with Breece Hall, I mean, they had John Simpson at left guard, Morgan Moses at right tackle. They're still going to make a big move at left tackle. There's a lot on the table for Kyron Williams and Breece Hall. It's going to be hard to balance who the second guy is.
I have Breece second just because I think more passing game usage, a little more explosiveness, honestly, than Kyron Williams. Again, I know we basically said last year, there's no way a guy that size can, last the full season. And then he didn't, by the way. He missed some time. And so just we were surprised at the amount of usage, and I think he'll get that usage, but can he stay healthy all year? Again, Kyron's right up there, but I prefer Breece Hall.
The thing that was instructive to me, Connor, about Breece is the fact that, what did he get, 35 carries in that last game against the Patriots? He's all the way back physically.
He's a target monster, too.
He's going to be a proper workhorse 3 down. And also just no concerns about anyone else in that backfield.
No, not at all. I mean, they don't have there's no Dalvin Cook kind of player that's, exactly. Yeah. So,
not even Dalvin Cook. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.